Críona. Yes. Tá fáilte roimh go léir go leabharlann agus cartlann Dhálaigh Cllr. Welcome to everybody to Dublin City Council's Dublin City Library and Archive. Now it's my pleasure to hand over to the City Librarian, Margaret Hayes.
Thank you very much, Moira. Can everybody hear me okay? Lord Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, as Moira says, you're very welcome here to Dublin City Library and Archive, which is the home for the memory collections of the city. These services, of course, are provided by Dublin City Council. The library service has been here since 1884, and we're actually in our 3rd century, collecting the story of Dublin and Dubliners and the wider national context for Dublin as the capital city of Ireland. Our collection development policy guides our purchases, but of course they're budget dependent every year. We're therefore especially grateful to accept relevant donations that enrich our collections. In recent years, significant donations have been received here which have excited and engaged new researchers and resulted in new works, new publications. Some of those have included the Finlater collection, the Leslie Shepherd Graham Stoker collection, the Communist Party of Ireland collection, and the collection of foreign language editions, for example, of the works of Samuel Beckett and Seamus Heaney, which were donated by their respective families. The Jonathan Swift collection from a well-known Swift scholar, and the Shade Gertie collection donated by Alice Hanratty, which is now at Ballyfermot Library. And all of these have contributed to the wealth and material available to public library readers. Just this year alone, we've received the colourful Fáilte Ireland photographic collection, which dates from the 1930s to the 2000s, a fascinating collection of pictures of Dublin and Ireland rarely seen. And we're digitising those at present. We're also received the collection of the Orchestra of St. Cecilia collection, and that's currently being catalogued. And what we do with these collections and donations is that we add value to them through programs of cataloguing and digitisation, while providing the materials with appropriate care and conservation here at our premises here at the Dublin City Library and Archive. And of course, we offer our magnificent reading room upstairs where people can consult them in comfort 6 days a week on 4 evenings, offering a total of 54 hours public service. Collectors and researchers who devote their time and talents to specific areas of historical or genealogical research deserve our special thanks because they create legacies of great importance, sources for future research and publication, and opportunities to tell the stories of people and places, many previously untold or difficult to navigate. This present donation of 14 volumes of Irish Jewish genealogical records stretches back to 1700 and has been compiled painstakingly by Stuart Rosenblatt over a 20-year period. It's a most valuable addition to our genealogical holdings, and I look forward to hearing more about its depth and diversity shortly, as Stuart will be telling us a little bit more about it. The release of the 1901 and the 1911 census returns, and of course television programmes such as Who Do You Think You Are, have increased the already passionate interest in genealogy and family history. Each new resource creates a ripple of excitement among the public, and we expect a great deal of interest in this wonderful resource. And we will give it a prominent place upstairs in our reading room, but also through all available channels that we possess, including through our online promotions, websites, etc. And it gives me now great pleasure to hand over to the Ard Vera Dhálaigh Cllr, Críona.
Good morning. Can I hear a sásta a bheith seomhnú, liv go léir chun ghlacha leis na himleabhar gnéalas fánacha seo ó Stuart. Is mór an teacht atá déanta ag Stuart a phobal Dhálaigh agus do chathair Dhálaigh Cllr agus modern Stuart as an saoir agus seo a dhéanamh. Stuart Rosenblatt is one of Dublin's most hard-working and high-achieving genealogists. For over 20 years, Stuart has been compiling the most detailed account of Irish Jewish families in Ireland, using records of birth, marriages and deaths, census returns, school registers, graveyard inscriptions, alien registration 1914 to 1922 and many other resources. He has brought together over 300 years of Jewish family history, documenting citizens who resided in Dublin and enriched Irish life. And I was just telling Stuart earlier that from a very young age I was very much aware of the Jewish community in Dublin, because along outside our back garden was a Jewish cemetery. I lived on Knockavana Road, and I always remember that, I don't know if it was the first protection racket run in Dublin, but we used to always get a few bob for minding the cars while people were in a cemetery. And we really got on well, and the children loved just mixing and mixing with the Jewish community. So it's only when I realised I was coming here today I'd actually remembered that, the fond memories that we had, talking to people, because we knew they were a different religion to us and we always had loads of questions for them. So I just welcome that opportunity to have that discussion with you earlier, Stuart. At present, Stuart has over 52,000 names on his database dating from the 1700s. And Frank McNally in the Irishman's Diary in the Irish Times referred to Stuart as the fountain of all knowledge about the Jews of Ireland. He has written The Idiot's Guide to Irish Jewish Ancestry, which was published in 2011. Stuart has done both the Jewish community and the City of Dublin outstanding service by presenting the results of many years' research to Dublin City Library and Archive in Pearse Street. Nowhere else in the world has a Jewish community been so thoroughly researched and documented. The set of 14 volumes presented by Stuart to the people of Dublin at Dublin City Library and Archive is one of only 5 sets, and therefore is an immense rarity. On behalf of the people of Dublin, and indeed the whole country, I am very pleased to accept this priceless gift. I would like to thank Stuart for his industry over so many decades in pursuing this project, and I know that it will make an extraordinarily valuable research tool into the future. Stuart Rosenblatt, Céad Míle Michael, ar son winter Caharwallia Cllr.
Lord Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, and friends, I was going to surprise you by lifting this off with some panache, but you already have seen most of this before, so I'll just turn these a little bit around to you. It so happens, Lord Mayor, that on your subject of Ochavena Road, I was working in Dolphin's Barn for, well, it took me about 6 years to do the coding of Dolphin's Barn Cemetery. And one day I was there, February or March, it was a freezing day, I was dressed like the Michelin Man, and I was working, there was foxes in the field, hoar frost on the ground, and I was freezing. But by 4 o'clock I decided I would leave to go home. I had enough for the day. And when I went to the gate, which you know is a big iron gate up there, I found that it was locked, and I was locked in. And I said to myself, oh crumbs, I'm going to be locked in here all night, my back to a tombstone, and Marley's ghost tapping me on the shoulder. Well, I tell you, I rattled that gate so fast, so hard, that it nearly came off the hinges. But on top of that, the children were playing out, as you would be, on the road. And they took their time to come and had a good laugh, and finally I got out. I must thank you very much for those very kind words. It doesn't leave me very much to say, at all. But there are 3 areas three books that I'd like to bring to your attention at this moment. And the first one is by Louis Hyman, The History of the Jews of Ireland from the earliest times of 1910. And really, ladies and gentlemen, this is the bibliography of Irish Jewry. The second book, which I would classify as the second book of great interest, is Jewish Ireland in the Age of Choice by Cormac O'Brien. The third book, which doesn't really fit into that genre at all, is called The Idiot's Guide to Irish Jewish Ancestry. Now this one is by my good self. So anybody who's trying to trace their Irish Jewish ancestry, it's a guide to find out where to look. This work, compilation, has taken 20 years of my time. It has affected the family in the sense that my son falls asleep before he gets the word of genealogy. My wife will tell you that I have a mistress and I take her with me wherever I go out on holiday or for the day, on a trip, and I take her to bed at the same time, but it's a bit lumpy. Of course, I'm talking about my computer. And And just in case anybody's going to look into Ashley Madison's site, if my name is there, I'm denying everything. But there's 3 areas that really bring into the work that I've done and made an impression on me. And the first one, I'd like to read a quotation to you. A person's name is their most prized and important possession, and this assumes an even more vital significance following one's death. A name is not just a record of one's life, it is the core of one's identity and existence. And that's by John Gilroy from A Cry in the Morning. And sir, I do not know who I am. And in a far-flung, inaccessible valley in Ireland, beside a wall under a tree, there's a tombstone which reads, "Whoever passes this way, lest I be not forgotten." And when I look back on the last 20 years, these 3 short quotations, pieces of wisdom, had a profound influence on my further understanding of the importance of sourcing and collecting these records. Records are not only of people who have passed through this world, but for the rest of us, who have a fleeting time before we too are called to our Maker. And what we leave behind is so aptly described by John Gilroy. A person's name is the most prized possession, a signifier of one's humanity, dignity, community, past, present, and future. I was struck by an email with the heading, "Sir, I do not know who I am." And that person was looking for their heritage. And the last quote, "Whoever passes this way, lest they be not forgotten," that actually made me stop and think of the real importance of this work that has been developed over the last 20 years. And it is, in fact, the epitaph which I'm going to have on my tombstone. I have to do things in advance, like leaving the will. Of course, I'm standing here not as an individual, Stuart Rosenblatt. I'm also part of the Irish Jewish Genealogical Society, which is a division of the Irish Jewish Museum. And when I first started, you probably would ask how I got started. When I first started, I went down to the museum. It's not a place I'd ever been to before. And I discovered in boxes information that hadn't seen the light of day for at least 100 years. And I started codifying this work. And ultimately, with a £10 family program, which progressed to what we now have is the carousel program, controls 120 different parts of a person's information, and it produces these books on my photocopier. There's only 5 copies, as we mentioned, of these, and I'm delighted to say that in the Dublin City Archives here that you will have a copy for posterity. This building, if you like to know, was taken over in 1900, and it was purchased for £2,500. Binding of these books cost more. There are copies available in the National Archives and in the National Museum, but also in the Geological Society of Ireland have a copy, and they very kindly appointed me as their, just shows you, president, not used to it, as a president for the next 5 years, and to the College of Fellows. To you, Lord Mayor, I am delighted to present you these volumes in the Dublin City Library as an archival monument to a long history of my community in this capital city and country, where these books will be consulted for many centuries from now, when we'll otherwise be forgotten. The first volume I'd like to present to you actually is the volume on this is memorial inscriptions. This is on actually Dolphin's Barn.
Oh, is it?
Yes. It took me 6 years to do this book, and 3 years in UCD, of which I got 68% for all that work. I could have got 2 more points to this of Sean Murphy to make it an honorary degree, which they wasn't happening. There's a book here called Moments to Remember in Irish Jewry, which is a fascinating insight into the thought and feelings of the Irish people who are in exile. And there's 2,500 pages in this volume. There's a book. These books are actually, there are editions in Limerick, and there's a copy of a Limerick Jewish community which is no longer in existence. Belfast, the copy has been presented to the Belfast Jewish community for the 50th anniversary of the opening of Cemetery Road Synagogue, and copies are in Críona as well as the library, the Liverpool Library in Belfast. There's another book here on census records from 1901 to 1911, which is over 7,000 entries. One in particular takes my interest is a man called Joseph Cllr. And you can look him up on the internet, and then you can tell me later on what his real name is. But it is there as Joseph Cllr. There's marriage records here from 1845 to 2005. Marriage records were allowed to be undertaken as non-Catholic records from 1844. So these records go from 1 year later. Many of them were found down in Roscommon in the General Registration Office in Roscommon, and have been extracted out to the person's name. Another book we have here is School of 9,000. Now, Jewish children went to various schools here in Ireland, and I have sat in the classrooms with the little pen on the front and the little desk coming down, and extracted out the information. And one of the schools, in fact 2 of them are on this road. I didn't realise that people lived on the north side of Dublin. It was only when I found the school records that I was able to find other information on them. My school record is in here if you need it. Would you like to know what it is?
I'm sure. All is, I'm sure, yeah.
It says Stuart is leaving and he's thoroughly spoiled by his parents. Now, what Irish son is not spoiled by the mother? In Jewish and Irish, it's double jeopardy. It says that he could do with a strong hand of the master, and we're not sending one of our best. And the third one, when I was leaving Wesley, it says no academic future. And they're right. They're absolutely right.
This speaks for itself, this connection.
Yes, but I've seen work on the Cork, when I come up to Cork. There's a book here on the Cork, which was presented to the Lord Mayor Cllr last year. And inside it is somebody who got an MA for their work. It was about that size. And my book is this size. And unfortunately, there's no recognition for labour. There's also a book on Limerick, which was given to the Limerick Civic Trust. Dennis Leonard, who tragically is not with us, he was very, very kind. I had no intention of doing any work on Limerick at all because I knew nothing about it, but he opened up a file box as big as the 2 of them like this, and I kindly photocopied the information which we have in the books here, so it's in a wider area. Of course, there are duplicates here. The first book that I wrote on, which is a compilation of all this information in any one area, and that is the A to Z of the DNA of Irish Jewry. That's just one book, and this is the other half of it. Now these contain 52,069 records. I'm still looking for the one record that is missing. So before I formally hand over these books to you, I'd like to show you what I call is my Book of Kells. My Book of Kells. Referred to as similar to the Annals of the Four Masters. Because when Cromwell came into Ireland, the monks of the day thought their whole civilization and culture that they knew would disappear. And in these works here is a compilation of the Irish Jewish community who have well passed through here, who have taken very fond memories of this country with, this is what I call my unrecognized masterpiece. inside here, it's all the, oh, I can't lift it. Inside here is a compilation of all that information on these. I actually have 19 volumes, and you have 12 of them here. There's a compilation and the extracts of the one person. It really is a one-stop shop. This is a matter of interest to you. This is acid-free paper, so it'll last hundreds of years. It's leather-bound, and it's 110 gram paper. This is my treat for my 70th last year. There's only one. Thank you. I should say thank you.